Hey everybody, on here coming to you with this month's Connecting Codes video for the insights coming up for things that we're going to be seeing in our world in October 2024. And I'm going to do my best to keep this short because I have an appointment today as I finish this up. So just to let people know, my name is Jessie On Nichols George. I go by On, and I am. Um, the author of the Code Journey, and I'm sorry my lighting is not the best. I've tried to get it to pick up better, but it's not. And I actually write these insights about a year to year and a half. So the what we're getting for October, I actually wrote about a year and a half ago. And it just kind of gives us a heads up on things that maybe we need to pay attention to, things that might be coming up in our world events, things that we can expect to see happening. And to give us that ability to work from foresight. So if we understand that certain things are going to go down in the world, and I keep thinking maybe I can get this lighting better, but it doesn't seem like it. Um, if we understand that certain things are going to go down in the world, then we can be ready for them, but we can be prepared for them in some ways. We understand that maybe sometimes it's not the best to um, go out and, be at protest, whereas other times it might be perfectly okay to do that. So let's take a look, and I want to get moving with this, like I said, because I don't have a lot of time to work with today, but I did want to get this out and ready for you guys so that you have the information there ready to go. So, in the general month energy for October, what we have is, basically, I'm going to say get your popcorn out, get ready. Those of you who are sharing out information, who are researchers, um, get out there and get your drives ready to save stuff because we're going to have probably a lot of stuff coming up to the surface during this time. And what we're going to find is that the truth surfaces, and those who cannot resist peer pressure are going to continue to support and promote the lies. So this is going to be the interesting thing. Those people who are really controlled, like our political figures who are really controlled, they're going to just keep pushing down that road of the lies, the deception, the manipulation energy. They're not going to be able to break free from the peer pressure. And it doesn't matter how much truth they're going to surface. I mean, you're watching the sun rising and they're going, no, it's night. You're standing outside and it's like a beautiful sunny day and they go, "No, it's snowing." And they're just not gonna be able to break free of those lies. And so, um, we really wanna watch for that because it's really gonna show us, this is they're gonna keep trying to do that gaslighting, um, aspect in things, and it's just going to get more they're just going to get more and more exposed is the aspect. We're going to find also, though, there are going to be more people who are going to find the strength to stand in the truth, and we've seen a lot of that lately, right? We've seen a lot of people going, okay, I'm done, I need to get past this, and um, you know, I can't take it anymore. And they're going to break free of that peer pressure. They're going to break free of whatever personal gain that they've been getting, and they're going to basically come clean about things, and they're going to start exposing a lot of things. So that can bring a lot of whistleblowers forward. I'm sorry, I'm seeing like a weird shadow on my face there. I guess it was coming from my glasses. I um, I hope I can read well enough in here without them. Um, and so, as we start to see that, that's going to be an exciting thing to see. There's going to be an inability to hide from crimes during this time. So that's going to be an interesting thing. And that means there's going to be attempts to sabotage those who cannot be controlled. So, um, we're going to see a lot of crime syndicate stuff being exposed, a lot of crime stuff coming out. I know here as we're completing the end of September, we have a lot of stuff coming out on P. Diddy, which we know connects to Epstein. And so There's going to be a lot of different components that way that are going to be um, very interesting. And I'm sorry, I just keep thinking I can get the light better in here, but I don't know that I can. Um, and there we go. Maybe that's a little bit better. Um, the shadows are just hard in here, so I apologize for that. So definitely we're going to see that sort of backlash. So like those people who can't be controlled, those people who are standing up, um, there's going to be attempts to sabotage them in some way, prevent them from getting places, prevent them from being able to handle things, maybe technological issues when they're supposed to do an interview, these sorts of things. So there'll be a lot of that type of thing coming out. And then we'll have a lot of probably some false flags coming out that are going to be used as distractions. Now, we always get this around election time, right? We always get this when there's too much heat coming on corrupt people in our world. So these false flags and these distractions are going to come up and attempts to silence people. So again, there's going to be these attempts as the whistleblowers come out to get them silenced, to get them to stop talking. Um, and and really there's a big panic that's going on with the corruption because they're realizing, yeah, when you've got people like JFK going in and supporting Trump, um, and many other people who have been lifelong Democrats supporting Trump, this is sending a lot of panic through these people who are standing in corruption, and it's really making them uneasy. So they're going to do what they can to mitigate their damage, so to say. Or they're basically going to be under the philosophy that, well, if I've got to be exposed for all of my crimes, then I'm going to take as many people down with me as I can. So we're definitely going to see um, that happening. But what's going to come out is every time they try to go after these people, every time they try to gaslight people, every time they try to do the sabotaging, they're going to actually end up exposing more of their crimes. And I was making an interesting comment to a friend of mine last night, and I was saying, isn't it kind of interesting that every time that there's been an assassination attempt on Trump, and there's been three, there was one, I think it was back in 2018, and then there was just the two recent ones here. And I said every time they do that, there's some big major piece that gets released. So like they did this last assassination Trump on Trump a couple of days ago, and then this whole thing about P. Diddy came out. So really an interesting thing to see some of these connections. And we're going to see more of this network, more of these connections exposed. So I think with P. Diddy stuff coming out, and then uh, I think it was Tulsi Gabbard that was it Tulsi Gabbard? I can't remember if it was her or not, but it was um, a key person who has just recently switched um, that said that we were going to be hearing. No, it was, I take that back. It was Megyn Kelly. And she was talking on a show with Tucker Carlson and mentioned that we're going to be hearing from Epstein. Not that Epstein's alive, but I imagine that means we're going to get some kind of live recordings from him that were done prior to um, his death. So these are all going to be interesting things to be paying attention to. So there's going to be those connections getting exposed more truth, more deeper layers of things getting exposed during this month, which is going to be a big piece. Now, integrity is going to get recognized. So there are going to probably also be more people coming out recognizing those people who are standing in integrity. I know that Tucker has been doing some of that where he's been on tour and then highlighting a lot of people at different stops along the tour. And there's going to be more support for those that are working in truth and integrity. So when you see these bigger forms of support come out, whether you want to believe uh, those people are in truth or integrity, this is one of the indications we're going to have, the direction the support goes. You're always gonna have your diehards with the corruption. They're never gonna admit they're wrong. They're never gonna shift gears. But, that's gonna be an interesting thing. So integrity gets recognized, it's gonna create successes, and this is a time for us to find and create, um, solutions. So this is gonna be a month where we see solutions being presented, and those that are in truth and integrity are going to be presenting solutions. They're not just gonna be talking, they're not just gonna be saying, "Here's what the other person's doing." They're gonna be presenting actual real solutions, to things that can work, and those are the things that we wanna pay attention to because I think a lot of people are needing that right now. They're feeling like they don't have the solutions that they need. Now, from the 1st through the 22nd of the month, in the key part of the month, we're going to be shown everything is a grand illusion. And this is going to be really hard for some people because some people are going to go down some deep rabbit holes with this. Some people are going to be catching up to things that have been out there for at least, 7, 8 years, maybe longer. 20 years, decades in some cases, they're just gonna be figuring this stuff out. And we're gonna start realizing that really everything's an illusion. Everything we've been told on the news, everything, not 100%, but it's all been created, masterminded sort of thing. And that doesn't mean we should be living in fear or paranoia. It should encourage us to go out and do our own research, to look at the actual wording on things. I know I say this all the time, but it is important to do, to go in and read the actual bills, to go in and look at, well, this is what they're saying, but what did they actually vote when it came down to it with your senators, your congress people, uh, this sort of thing. So we're going to be shown even more. This is all a big, grand illusion that's going on. There's all these different world events, the wars, the, you know, um, banking issues, financial collapses. It's all a big illusion. And it must be brought into divine principles and universal truths. For anything to move forward now, it's got to start coming into alignment. And we've got to have that connection to the divine principles, the universal truths, in order to see through the confusion. And so we personally need to make that alignment so that we can see through all the confusion, the illusions, the lies, the deception, because there's a ton of them out there. And we want to be able to see through those and what's being used and how people are being disoriented, pulled away from the truth. Um, Competitions are going to magnify during these first 3 weeks, especially where there's a lot of confidence in people and a lot of alignment with corruption. We're going to see who is seeking fame and fortune and status. So that's a good sign. And we're going to see that, oftentimes in those people who are working in these corrupt circles that are working in destructive and detrimental and harmful ways. Um, they are always competing against each other. They're um, they're always trying to one up each other. They're always trying to outdo each other. So when you see people doing that, and it's always this aspect of um, trying to gain status among among the evil, so to say, and that's really what it's about. So we could see some resurfacing of maybe people like Fauci, maybe some resurfacing of Gates stuff coming up. Um, we could see resurfacing of a variety of people coming forward um, at this time because they're looking to gain in some sort of status. They're looking to gain their brownie points with the bad guys. They're looking to show their alliance with evil. That's also going to bring probably a lot of celebrities up too, to virtue signal, and that's really what it's about: virtue signaling to say, "This is where I'm at. Hey, this is what I'm going to support. This is what I'm going to align with," and that's going to be very interesting to see how that manifests. And that's also going to show us, look, these are the people we can't trust. you know, these are the people that are not going to be the people we should be listening to, and that's true. I mean, take like a Taylor Swift or somebody like that, um, that is, doing all this virtue signaling that is showing, "Oh, I'm so aligned with Kamala Harris," and it doesn't matter how many of the different things that come out crime-wise, corruption-wise, with her VP and all of these things. So, yeah, we just really want to pay attention to that because that competition is going to get evident. And as some people fall from those higher rungs, you're going to get people that are lower in those evil circles that um, are going to be trying to get picked to be put into those positions. So that's probably going to be the competition that happens. You'll see those who are working in corruption, who are working unethically, try to engage others in competition. Now, those in truth and integrity, they have nothing to fear. They're not really interested in competing, but they may show up to present their point of view or something of that nature. So people are being pushed also to their limits. They're being pushed to their breaking points at this during this time period, and those that are standing strong um, and not caving into the peer pressure will be probably outcast in some way. They're going to try to make these people disappear. So those that are standing strong are they're going to say, no, I'm not going to cave in. You're not going to buy me, you're not going to persuade me, you're not going to push me over the limit. So those people that are making the actual breakthrough instead of breaking down when they're at that breaking point, um, you're going to see them just kind of disappear, and it's not going to necessarily be by their choice, but this is part of the games the media plays. They will spotlight whoever they want you to focus on. And so, even though there might be all these great or horrendous things, depending on the person, going on, they will pull them out of the spotlight if you don't want them to pay attention. So, they don't want you to see the people making the breakthroughs. They don't want you to see the successes that are happening. They don't want you to see the good side of some people. And so they're just going to completely pull away from reporting from them or giving them any attention. So, um, and then you know, and then they're going to put the focus on those people they do want you to see, and that are breaking down, for example. So they're gonna focus on these people that can't take it. We're probably going to see a lot of the who is it? Rita Panahi does the on Sky News does the lefties losing it. She's probably going to have a wealth of information in these 3 weeks. Libs of TikTok is probably going to have a lot. We're probably going to see a lot of stuff coming out of people just flipping out because a lot of these people who are supporting these narratives, who are being paid influencers to sway people in these different political agendas, um, they're going to be the ones breaking down. They're going to be the ones not handling the truth coming out and the breaking out of all of these illusions. So that's going to be a huge thing to watch for. Now, as we get into the last week and a half of the month, attempts to use fear and urgency to get people to act impulsively. We've got to be very careful of this. Think back to the 2020 pandemic, where places like in New York, and they were giving all of these incentives to get the jab and things like that. Um, Back to this bribery, back to, we're going to really see probably an exposure on the bribery that is happening in the corruption in those people who are aligned with, that are not in integrity. And so you're going to see them, look, if you come to my rally, we'll pay you $100. We'll pay you $200. We'll give you a free concert. We'll do this. And Kamala's been caught in that. They've been caught bussing people in um, to her rallies. And so I mean, this is the type of thing we're going to see. So they want you to do something. They're going to try to find what your weak point is, what your treat, what your reward is, what you will give into. But it's very important we don't give into these things. And part of this is too, they want to distract you with that so-called dangling carrot so that they can get you to act without thinking. So it's very important that we don't act without thinking. We don't go into that reaction. We don't want to act out of fear or urgency. We want to stop and do our research. And I guarantee you, they're going to throw a lot of stuff at us. Also, in the first 3 weeks, we're going to see probably some more focus and report on diseases, on illnesses. They're going to probably the WHO is going to be trying to push their agendas, their attempts for controls. They're probably going to release that, trying to get people in fear to not show up at the polls and to vote and things like that. So that's another aspect that we have coming in. So and that ties in right with that. Um, hey, if you do this right now, if you get out and you do this, if you mail in your ballot today, we will do this, for you. You'll get this reward. Don't do it. Stop, think about it, research things before you fall in the fear of some disease being spread. Stop and get the facts, because a lot of times they're saying, oh, this disease is spreading, and you find out there's maybe one or two cases. We've seen this a lot with a lot of food recalls coming up, like in September here, we've had a lot of food recalls going on. If you've seen those popping up, they're putting that in your face, trying to scare you. But again, if you go in and do the actual research and the actual fact checking on this, I don't mean through the fact checkers, but I mean going in and actually reading the reports, you'll find that there was one case here, one case there. This is nothing. That is happening all the time. That is nothing new. That's not anything to fear or be afraid of or any of that. So we want to be very careful of that urgency and that fear energy. Think before you act on things. We will see people being bullied into compliance as well. So the tyrants, the dictators are going to come out. They're going to try to restrict things you can do. They're going to try to say, if you don't do this, you're not going to have that, and we're going to shut this down. And so, again, we don't want to feed into this fear. We want to be able to stand up in things, because that's what it takes. It's not going to go away unless we are standing up in things. Um, we're going to see those in greed are going to be blocked. So again, we see that block. The attempts are being made, but we're going to see the blocks. So it's unlikely they'll be able to actually pull things through. And when they make the attempts, what's going to happen is it's going to expose more of those connections, more of the ties, more of the other agendas that they have going on in there. So all of that is coming through. Now, those that are operating in divine service are going to be making some good progresses. So here again, we got to get our perceptions out of things. We got to get out of who we want to like and who we want to hate, and see who's actually making the progressions, who's actually being blocked, these sorts of things, because that's telling us where the truth is. That's telling us who's doing what, who's where, who's aligning with what energy. And that is a really great indicator for us. It's going to help us to understand who is with us, who is against us, who's operating in integrity, who isn't operating in integrity. And our true, you know, our true relations are our assets. And we want to make this is another thing that's going to come under attack. True and strong partnerships are going to come under attack. So when these attempts for competing, these attempts to be better than other people, these attempts to sabotage, one of these sabotage forms is going to be trying to break people up from each other. It's going to be coming in and interfering. So we can see people trying to split the partnership that people have. Like you could see them maybe trying to drive a wedge between Melania and Donald Trump. You could maybe see them trying to put a wedge between Trump and Vance, or Kennedy and Vance, or Elon and Kennedy and Trump, or Elon and Trump, and so we can see those sorts of things. But we're also probably going to see some of the people working in the positive ways, trying to break up other partnerships, like trying to break up government partnerships with social media platforms, for example, and doing that. So again, we want to watch and see what's happening. If the partnerships are between people who have strong relationships that are working towards positive things, then we know that that's a sabotage attempt. If the breaking up of partnerships is something like breaking up the government from having influence over social media platforms, then we know that that's working towards the benefit of the people. So that's where we can start to see, which one is which and what is playing out. And so I just want to make sure I'm being mindful of my time here, which I am. This is a good thing. I'm actually carrying a good pace for my Connecting Codes video this month. Okay, now we get into the actions. And when we look at the actions we need to be focused on during the month of October, um, this is our time to really stand up to the peer pressure. This is our time to really stand up for what is right. It's our time to stand up for the underdog, those people. And I think the more that we see the truth come out on things, the more we are going to see those people who are really being put under attack, who really are being targeted in things. And so we need to make sure that we are standing up and that we're doing what is so-called, right, what is based in actual truth. And again, that's not listening just to the truther communities, because there's a lot of psyops and there's a lot of um, operations that are going on in that community, and there's a lot of um, things that are not true in that community. There's a lot of manipulation, a lot of lies and deception in that community. So again, getting into the actual truth of things, and that means you got to do your research. That means that you got to find those people who are consistently, reliably putting out the truth on things. Whether we like them or not, if they're putting out the truth, that is going to be the benefit for us. So we want to really, take a look at that, stand up for that. We're going to see also some uh, poor decisions being made, bad contracts coming forward. So they're going to try to get people into bad contracts during this time, keeping them confused, knowing that their mind isn't working. But we've got to be aware of that, because our mind is not clear. Our intuition is clear during this time. So when we're acting, we really got to pay attention to our gut, to our heart, to what is practical, what is reasonable. Again, not taking action on the fear or reacting to things, but just going in and not operating in that urgency, taking a step back and going, okay, let me think about this for a couple hours. Let me ponder it for a couple of days. Let me get in and do some research on things. Also, medical procedures are not going to be good during this time. And so if you can avoid any of that, I think that's very important, because, and when I see this come out with the other components, and I'm looking at this in the context of world events, part of what I see is that there could be some deep corruption going on in the medical industry that is spreading diseases instead of healing people. Now, again, we saw that back in 2020, where there were a lot of hospitals, and I was in personal connection just a couple of months back earlier in the summer uh, with Nurse Erin, who was on the front lines in New York City watching the murders happen in the hospitals in New York and watching what was happening. She was a traveling nurse, and she hit the news a little bit at that time. Didn't get probably the credibility that she deserved to have. And listening to her full story and the full recount of everything, yeah, you do not want to be getting medical treatment during this time, if unless it's, critical, you're unconscious, there's nothing you can do about it. Certainly there's those instances, we're talking true emergencies come up, but you don't want somebody operating on you or working on you when their mind isn't clear. And that's the energy we're dealing with at this point. So if we can stay out of contractual agreements, if we can stay out of um, contracts and things like that, uh, that's going to be to our benefit. So it's very important. So again, it's going to be interesting, because I think those who are working in unfavorable ways, who are working in destructive ways against humanity, are going to try to be forcing certain contracts to happen. And so um, that we want to be very, very careful of. And we want to pay attention. If there are contracts being signed, if there are agreements being made at this time, we want to look at them because there's probably going to be huge issues, and that's probably going to be something that we want to stay on top of because it's going to be probably like backdoor agreements, and there's probably going to be strings attached or other things attached that are very unfavorable in those agreements. So definitely something for us to pay attention to. Miscommunications are really easy at this time, so we need to consider that, and we need to make sure that I know in these times people are so ready to jump on somebody for the smallest thing, for the smallest mishap or way that they misspeak in something these days. But we've got to realize that sometimes things just don't come out right. It's not intentional, it's not meant to be that way. It happens. I imagine we're going to see meme heaven this this month of October. There's going to be a wealth of content for memes because of that. But we also want to realize that, again, some of what is being said is not intentional, it's not meant, and we're going to have to sort through it, and we're going to have to give it some time to find out what the truth is. So we could see people backtracking some stuff, we could see people recounting some stuff, we could see a lot of editorial corrections coming forward because of that. People misunderstanding things. We got to be very careful of people speculating or assuming that something is a certain way without having any actual facts or data or anything to back it up or proof to back it up. And I see that happen a lot in the truther communities where they speculate a lot. They say, well, I saw this, so we can assume that it's going to be that. No, we can't. And that's what spreads a lot of false information out there. That's what spreads a lot of fear as well. And it spreads a lot of leading people in paths that just aren't true. And we've got to stay away from that. It's so critical, especially when we already have all of this confusion and lies and manipulation and everything going on. We're also going to see a huge increase in desire for freedom and to and some adventure. People are going to be wanting to explore new options and possibilities, but we really need to stay focused on what holds true value. So, the good side of that, when people are more open, they're more willing to explore different possibilities. Those people who have been closed minded might be willing to hear something that they haven't heard before. They might be willing to give something a second chance or to look at something that they hadn't noticed before or that they had been rejecting before. So that's a good thing. And what brings them there? What brings them there is the focus on true values. And this is what is going to be probably a huge winning or deciding piece for a lot of people. Like when we look at people who are starting to decide who they're going to vote for or what's going to go down in the elections, this could be a big swinging point for a lot of people, is who is placing the emphasis on the values of having a safe community, the values of family, the values of um, being able to thrive in the world, being able to have a good life, a decent life, to not be struggling so much, to being able to appreciate what we have and what has been created and what America stands for or what other things stand for, and getting down to those core values instead of hating everything and really looking at what's important, in there. And I think that's got to be a key talking point for those who are really going to move forward on things. And we want to hold that within ourselves, within our communities. We want to uphold true values. And if we do that, we will strengthen our communities. We will strengthen ourselves. We will not be persuaded by the miscommunications, the lies, and all of that stuff. We'll be able to see through it. and we'll be able to get down to the truth of things, which will be a huge asset. Now, when we look at our thoughts and where people's heads are at during this time, and oh, this is always an interesting thing, right? Well, from the 1st through the 13th of the month, people are going to be focused on um, feeling worn down. Um, People are mentally exhausted because we're in this psychological warfare. That's the reality of it. We have to be able to take our breaks and step away from things. And I think more and more that's going to be what's happening. People will want to give up. There's going to be probably a bit of a pessimistic attitude going down for these first couple of weeks. People are just been going to be thinking there's no hope. And part of that is because they think corruption's getting away with things that they're not actually going to be getting away from. They're going to be thinking, what's the use of things? We're going to see people probably turning out, turning away from the news, turning it off, not listening to some stuff. And that can actually be an asset because that can allow them to clear their head. That can allow them to reconnect with their soul self. That can allow them um, to really settle in to their heart a little bit more and to look at things from a more realistic perspective. But we've got to be very careful with these feelings of lost hope and feeling that there's no way out of things. Um, Everything is in flux, everything is shifting, everything is changing. And, what looks hopeless today can look very hopeful tomorrow. So we got to just take those deep breaths, don't let ourselves reside in that pessimism. If you need to turn off the news for a couple of weeks, do it. You know, um, Even if there's a lot going on, just minimize it. Get out in nature, get some fresh air, go for a walk, these sorts of things. This is a time that is going to probably see a lot of mind control and programming being pushed on us. So, again, a lot of agendas, a lot of media being very active during this time. And um, they're trying to get us to these breaking points. They're trying to get us to mentally just give up and give in to them. And that's why they're pushing all of this control and this programming so hard. That's why they're pushing people because they want that compliance. And they figure if they just exhaust us, and mental exhaustion a lot of times is worse than a physical exhaustion. So they figure if they just exhaust us out completely, that we will just, accept what they're giving us, what they want to push on us. And we don't want to do that. So we're better to walk away. Again, take that time, clear our head, walk away from things, especially if you're feeling the negative things, especially if you're feeling fear or urgency. That is a good time to walk away from it. Step away, go clear your head, go do something fun, go do some daydreaming, do some daydreaming and disappear a little bit that way. That's supported right now during the first 2 weeks. And what we're likely to see is an increase in suicide during this time. Um, we're going to also be distracted, and I think part of the false flags that we may see is going to be connected to accidents and deaths. And we know there will be deaths that will not be accidents, but will be made to look like accidents. Um, and we will probably see these suicides happening because people, when they hit that breaking point, and if they're not strong and stable to start with, when they're got everything coming down on them, there are plenty of people who will just give up. And it's going to be a hard thing to see, and it's going to be a tough thing to see. Where we want to keep our focus is on transcending things, breaking through things, holding strong and giving it that little extra push, even though we're kind of exhausted. And we're going to have to balance that, of course, with honoring what our bodies need, right? But we want to make sure that we just give it that little extra push and hang in there until we get the breakthrough. That is going to be very, very important. And when we do this, we will wipe out all of this pessimism that's going on. But we've got to hold tight on that. Um, Experiences right now are going to be giving us a lot of lessons. We're going to learn a lot from our experiences, um, and we're going to be balancing or needing to balance dreams with reality. So when we're thinking about things, again, we've got to break through what is actually real, what is actually the truth, and what is an illusion. And again, most of what comes out in the media, most of what is shown on TV is an illusion, and it's not real at all. And we've also got to get out of our airy fairy dreamy thing like, oh, the big reset's going to come and it's going to save us and everything's going to be fine. We got to get out of that. That's great if, when, whatever that comes through, but we can't live on the hopium of that coming through. And how many times have you heard these people out there that are involved in that, and pushing that, telling people, "Oh, it's gonna happen now. Oh, it's gonna happen now. Oh, it's gonna." I cannot even count the number of times I've heard people putting stuff out. "Oh, it's gonna happen this month. It's gonna happen that month," and it doesn't happen. It never happens in those months. I believe there are potentials for aspects of this to happen, but there's a lot of things that still have to happen before that comes into being. And we don't want to live in the speculation, in the hope, in the depending on that to come. We need to pull out of that dream, that illusion that we're living in, and come into reality and say, how do I deal with things without that? Because that's the real thing we're being asked to do, is how do you make things work without that big windfall, without that financial reset, without those things happening? Because once you learn that, you will be able to make it in anything. So the key is not living in that. We gotta find our balance in there. But all the things that are going to be happening in October, in the first 2 weeks in particular, are going to be teaching us. So we do want to pay attention enough, even when we're maybe not watching as much as we normally would. We do want to be paying attention enough to say, what can we learn from this? And whether you love Donald Trump or whether you hate Donald Trump is not the point. The point is he's teaching a lot of people along the way. And he is bringing up things, and he's constantly bringing up things that is getting people to go and research stuff that either they never knew, they never learned, they never understood, connected to the amendments, connected to the Constitution, connected to people in our world, connected to um, the ties that people have, the partnerships that are happening, the ways that things are not as they appear. And he's getting people to go out and research things. Every time he says something, whether it triggers people or whether they support it, it's getting them to go out and research it and take a look at it and learn for themselves. And that is a really valuable piece. And there's more than just doing it. And why is this? Because these experiences that we're having is teaching us so much, teaching us things we've forgotten, teaching us things that we didn't know, doing a ton and ton of teaching. So it's incredible what that is offering up. So we really want to look at that. And again, balancing our desires with reality. We got to be operating in reality. We got to keep our mind clear enough, even though we have that more dreamy, natural state that we want to be off in our daydreams. It's important to entertain those to a certain extent, because when we do entertain those, then what we're doing is we're actually helping to keep ourselves going. We're keeping ourselves in touch with what is possible. And that is important to have something to realize that things are possible, and almost anything is possible if we really want to manifest it. On the other hand, we need to recognize and acknowledge the state of things where we're at, because if we don't do that and we don't come into the reality of things, there is no way that we can change them. And that is the true doom and gloom situation, is avoiding the reality of things. So when we come into it with a positive mind, then that's the key. Okay, moving on to the last 2 weeks and where people's heads are going to be. This is going to provide people um, kind of a mental break in things, and people are feeling more peaceful. So especially if people were able to make those mental breakthroughs, if they were able to break through the illusions, acknowledge the grand illusions that are going in, come more into reality, and make those personal breakthroughs, make the group breakthroughs and things, then we're going to feel that peace coming through. We're going to feel the ease, and we're going to be able to see, look, it's going to be okay. Look, spirit, our soul self, our resilience is stronger. It is stronger than the challenge that we have to face. And so that is going to be very important. And more people are going to be focused on acting compassionately and in unconditional love. And so there's going to be more kindness coming through because more and more people are going to be realizing, oh, okay, this isn't Democrats versus Republicans. This isn't this group versus that group. It is people standing up for values, for integrity, for what is right, um, to those who are trying to challenge us and pull us out of divine alignment. And it is those people who are trying to, it is the coming and uniting with each other to take a stand of what against what is truly unfavorable. And again, you're always going to have those people who are going to support what's unfavorable because they have gone so far down into convincing themselves that it is favorable and that it's okay and that it's justified when it is not. And so, but we're going to find those breakthroughs. And I think that's, if we can just hang on and get through those first 2 weeks, we're going to find a lot more ease, a lot more peace. Things are going to really settle down during that time. Um, People either think like us or are opposite to us. So we could be a little more polarized, but I think there's going to be a lot more people coming into that peaceful state, the rational state, the reality state of things. And there's going to be fewer and fewer in that corrupt opposition. Because again, the other pieces are already showing us we're going to see a lot of those transitions coming over, and the people who are opposing uh, what is right and just and in integrity and in truth. Um, those people are just they're collapsing. They're just collapsing is what's happening. So we're going to see those people who are jealous are going to try to compete with us or to compete with whoever they view as their opponent. They're going to be trying to prove that they're better than those people. Now, we have to balance this because, again, when you're in political races, you've got to state why you will be better than your other candidate, and that's not necessarily a competition. So we've got to be able to discern the difference between stating your worth and competing, and trying to prove that you're better than somebody else. So there's very fine lines and intricacies in there that we want to pay attention to. But we got to be careful of these people who are trying to be morally superior. And again, these are some very, very fine lines in there. But those people who are trying to be that way will not remain that way. They're just saying things, but they're not going to follow through on things. They're jealous of the people who do know their value and their worth in the world. They're jealous of those people who have the strength to see through the challenges, that have the strength to break away from the crowds, to have the strength to break away from the programming in there. So it's going to get very interesting. And this is where we've really got to focus on and we really got to learn how to identify the nuances without being OCD and without creating and speculating and making things something that they aren't. Um, People will now be focusing on supporting those that are working for morals and ethics. So again, remember I said that true value piece. People really want to support those people that are working in that. Moving on to the soul self energy. Now, again, in the first from the 1st through the 17th, so basically the first half of the month, people are going to be very worn down physically, mentally, um, emotionally, all of these things. But during that process, if we will honor our time to restore and to have some breaks and to get away from things, we will be able to unfold spiritual processes and things. So, and all these things that feel like that are breaking us down, we're going to be able to start to identify the soul connections in them, the spiritual processes, the spiritual lessons that are involved in them. And people are going to be Um, I'm going to have to put my glasses on for a second so that I can read this word. Uh, Crossing what allows them to meet their needs. Do I have that right? I don't know. That's what it looks like on my notes here. Um, and to take care of themselves. So, um, they're really focusing. Sorry, not crossing. Focusing. They're gonna really be focusing on what they need to do to take care of their needs and, to take care of themselves, and victories are gonna be happening during this time that are gonna raise our spirits, because they will be happening for those that are standing in divine alignment or where we are with that divine alignment, and when we don't give in to the temptations, the bribes, the addictions, all of those things. So again, if we don't give in to those narratives, we don't give in and go grab the dangling carrot in front of us, and we don't operate out of that fear, that urgency, or that virtue signaling, or any of those things, we will be able to see some pretty incredible victories and successes coming through, and we will be able to overcome the challenges. And that will help to offset some of that negative mindset that we have going on, that pessimism that's going on. That will help to give us little pieces of hope within that. And there is going to be, again, that stronger desire to be free because the soul self is saying, I am meant to be free. I'm not meant to be restricted, confined, and suffocated and silenced and all of these things. So we're going to see that even stronger desire to be free. And when we really honor that in a favorable and positive way, we can really make some big leaps and strides and things. And then people are seeing what holds true value, like family, like friends, like health, like wellness, stability. You know, things are always changing. I don't mean just mundane routine, but I mean having enough to pay your bills, having enough to put a roof over your head, these sorts of things. People are going to get down to those true core values. And they're going to start really being able to say, look, I can't support somebody who's not supporting me in feeding my family or putting a roof over their head. So these are going to be the core things. Now, in the last 2 weeks, we do have some victim energy that surfaces. So again, that's going to play in, even though we get the more peaceful energy, some people are going to fall into that victim space instead of finding the peaceful energy. If they didn't do the breakthroughs, they put themselves in the hands of fate, and now they're going to have some bigger challenges coming through. And if those people who aren't dealing with the illusions well and breaking through the illusions and the truth that's coming up, then they will probably fall into the victim energy space. They are going to seek recognition through being a victim in there. So we want to be careful of those. Those that are playing the victim card, certainly there are true victims to circumstances, right? Um, like the firefighter Corey that was shot in that first assassination attempt a couple of last month, or back in August, at the Trump rally. He was a true victim. Okay, he was a true victim of circumstances in there. Um, Died saving his family, literally in there. But you're going to have a lot of other people that just want to play that victim card and they're not really victim. So we got to be very careful if we're starting to feel like, well, we're just a victim to our circumstances, we're hopeless, we can't do anything. We want to call out those lies. That we do have a lot of things that are what's going to try to break our spirit in these last 2 weeks is going to be lies, betrayal, manipulation. And the positive side of that is when people become betrayed, you are going to turn them away from those that are creating damage. So if you've got people who are operating in alignment with evil or destructive or trying to destroy humanity or these sorts of things that we have in world events, if they betray you, you are no longer going to be supporting those things. So this can be a great opportunity to see a lot of people, last minute take a change of views and where they're going to put their energy and what they're going to support, because of that betrayal. And I think a lot of people who have been supporters of those that are in corruption, um, are going to turn. They're gonna turn it this time because of that betrayal. They're gonna see where they've been betrayed and things. So we gotta be very careful, but also we have to be alert to where that's happening and not let those things break our spirit and again come into the truth and the integrity. And we must stand up to the bullies and the abusers, or move on. Stand up to them or move on. Either way, we should not give in to them because they are going to put a lot of pressure on us this month. So we can't let them break our spirit. We can't give in. We can't sacrifice. We can't um, become the traitor or go against the values because of them. Success happens if we don't try to compete with others. So keep that in mind. Again, coming back, know your value, know your worth. You don't need to compete with people. You just need to stand in the truth and the integrity. And that's what keeps the soul energy alive. That's what keeps God's energy alive. That's what increases divine presence so that we can have a world that is enjoyable to be in, that truly comes from a more heart centered space. Now, people seek to support morals and values again and to create things of quality. So this is where the sport's going to be for people. Um, they're kind of done, you know, wanting to support all this crap, to put it mildly. So that's what we have going on for October. Um, hang in there, everybody. Don't let the challenges break you down. Stay in focus with that breakthrough. Sit back, observe some things, and hang tough in there. I wouldn't encourage people to, particularly the first 2, 3 weeks of the month. It's really not the time to be out at big rallies, but you can be making, that difference in yourself and your communities. You can be resisting these things. And if you're willing to be that person who stands in the truth and the integrity, if you're that person who's willing to come from the soulful energy of things, then you are going to be that person who inspires others to be there too, because there's a lot of people that want to be there who are afraid to be there. And it takes somebody to speak up and to say something and to stand strong and to not cave into the peer pressure or the bullying tactics or any of these other pieces in there. So, with that, I hope you have a good month. I'm sure you will get through everything. Remember, nothing is permanent. Things are only there temporary. So when you hit those challenging spaces, you hit those hardships, you hit those times where you're not feeling so great about things, you know, take a step back, go take a walk, go enjoy some nature, get out in the sun, um, and just enjoy things a little bit and take a little break from everything and clear your head out. Enjoy some daydreams, all of those great things, and it'll help give you the break. And all the challenging stuff will pass. And literally, we're only talking, what, a couple of weeks here or a month there. It's all going to pass. We just got to hang tight in there. I will see you next month. Take care.